Some encounters don't just watch you, they react to you. Deep in the woods, something starts throwing objects from the darkness, like it knows you're there. And in another case, a figure only appears when no one is looking, then disappears the moment it might be seen. So the real question is it avoiding you, or controlling exactly when you see it? A mountain biker recorded a brief clip.
What in the hell?
A dog can be heard along with another source producing loud, unfamiliar noises. Neither is visible on camera, leaving the origin uncertain. In open environments, sound can travel and distort, making it difficult to identify where it's coming from. Without a clear source, even ordinary noises can seem unusual. So, what do you think was creating that sound? The footage is believed to come from a Facebook livestream recorded on a property in Batesville and was later reposted on TikTok.
What the fuck is that?
I'll take the one.
Go get the pistol. Go look under the seat and get the gun.
Where it is?
Look up under my seat.
Which one?
Look up under the pickup seat. Get the pistol. I don't know what the fuck that is, man. Oh my God. This is real, man.
During the recording, a distant figure becomes visible. The person filming appears to think it is near his home and reacts trying to respond. The video ends with the figure still on screen without any clear explanation of what it might be. In low-light conditions, shapes can be difficult to interpret, and distance can alter how things appear. Without additional context, it's hard to determine what was actually there. So what do you think that figure could have been? Reddit user Jacob Abraham was hiking off trail when he noticed something that at first looked like a bear. He pulled out his phone to record, but as it moved, he started to question that assumption. He still couldn't determine what it was. He later showed the clip to a friend who recommended sharing it online. The footage quickly sparked discussion. In the wild, distance and motion can make familiar animals appear unfamiliar. Without a clear view, it's easy to misinterpret what's there. So, what do you think he actually recorded? Meet Angelo, the explorer behind the well-known channel, Exploring with Angelo. He takes viewers on daring trips through forests, mountains, and remote wilderness areas. But on August 14th, 2025, returning to a familiar location just days after a previous visit showed that even known places can still hold unexpected surprises.
A few nights ago, I actually had to take a little bit of time off just because I'm getting ready to go on the next big adventure. So, with that being said, I figured I'd come out, still get some content, but I wanted to lighten the load for myself. I'm going to explain a little bit about this place. So we were here a few nights ago, which it is haunted, and there is something going on. I think there might actually be a Bigfoot out here.
Reports about unusual activity in these woods had been spreading. People mentioned massive footprints larger than any typical animal, along with glimpses of a dark, unnatural shape.
We ended up going to the Skinwalker Forest instead. When we went to the other side of this forest, there must have been a house or something, like really close by. Not again. This is why you shouldn't film on a Friday night, apparently.
These accounts made the forest feel far more unsettling. A sudden noise broke the silence. A rustling sound came from nearby, close enough to raise concern. At first, the area looked empty, something that could be dismissed as a falling branch. Then movement appeared within the darkness, just out of sight.
It's like something scraping on like a tree. Okay, we gotta go down there. There's definitely something moving down there. Which, I mean, some animals do that. Like, I know deer do that periodically.
It felt deliberate and controlled. For a moment, everything seemed still and the forest felt tense. Whatever was there didn't seem familiar, and it was closer than expected.
Sort of something just hit the tree.
Devastation.
devastation. Is the tree collapsing?
Stay for longer.
Unfortunately, I can't stay all night, but I'll stay as late as I can.
From the pit.
From the pit? What do you mean, from the pit?
One of the apples from a bag was gone. The other remained untouched, but the missing one showed signs of being taken. There was no indication of a person, only confusion.
There's no way. There's no animal that I could think that would even be able to reach that. You'd have to have someone like human size or taller. It's like, yeah, dude, it's like stabbed in there. What the f?
What started as a minor sound quickly became more intense. Something struck the camera lens without warning. The impact felt sudden and purposeful, as if something had reached out. Soon after, the sense of being watched became stronger. Objects weren't just falling, they were being thrown.
So, I'm gonna be real with you guys. I think something was just thrown. Like, several things. I don't see any, like, rocks or anything. Unless, like, there's a whole bunch of shit falling off the tree. But I did hear, like, a whoosh at some point. But I don't see anything that would have done that.
The presence made itself known. A low, rough sound echoed from deeper in the woods, difficult to identify. Then, everything went quiet again. For a brief moment, a shape moved through the darkness before disappearing. Whether it was a trick of the light or something real, the uneasy feeling remained. Something had passed through that area tall enough to disturb items placed high above the ground.
Oh. Oh, what the? Something literally just hit the camera. Hang on, I gotta... Yeah, that clearly is a presence of something. Alright, something really strange is going on in these woods. Maybe Bigfoot does not like the fact that I'm here. Especially at night.
The scattered wood showed no clear pattern, and there was no visible trail leading away. The cause didn't match known wildlife behavior. That level of reach suggested something larger than expected. What began as curiosity had turned into something more certain.
Okay, that's just something, a frog or something jumping in the bush. So, the upcoming trip, I did bring a beer with me, just one. Oh, it's ice cold too. So we're going to Western Canada. We're going to be doing a lot of British Columbia. We're going to be doing some areas of British Columbia we're going to do tons of camping. I pretty much got everything we need in order to survive.
When large tracts appear and objects are taken from elevated places, it often suggests something both big and aware is nearby. What do you think is actually living in those woods? A photo was shared on the Bigfoot subreddit by a user who found it in a box of old pictures at their 98-year-old grandfather's home in Connecticut. The image had no label or date and was kept among ordinary family photos. The picture shows a dark figure with unusually long arms, unlike anything else in the collection. Over time, old photos can lose their context, making them harder to interpret. Without clear details, even a simple image can seem unusual. So, what do you think that figure actually was? A hiker was moving through a forest in Slovakia when he captured this unsettling footage. Something felt off, so he began scanning the area with his camera. When he zoomed in, he saw a large figure standing nearby. He turned and ran immediately without stopping. Even now, he still questions what he witnessed. In dense woodland distance and shadows can distort how things look. Without a clear view, it's easy to misinterpret size and shape. So, what do you think was actually there? Here's a discovery that could challenge what you believe about everything you thought you understood about history. In a finding that blurs the boundary between ancient myth and documented events, researchers have uncovered a 4,000-year-old clay tablet from Mesopotamia in what is now Iraq that tells a strangely familiar story. What makes this artifact remarkable isn't only its age or condition, but the surprising level of detail. It includes instructions for constructing a large circular vessel built to endure a catastrophic flood with animals brought aboard in pairs. The visuals associated with the discovery show ancient Sumerian tablets presented by Irving Finkel, alongside an artistic interpretation of a round arc facing violent seas. The find is deeply unsettling in a fascinating way. Holding that small weathered tablet feels like holding a lost version of our collective past, one that predates the Bible yet echoes similar warnings. Whether viewed as myth parallel storytelling or a distorted memory of ancient truth, it naturally creates a sense of awe. It raises a lingering question: were ancient civilizations trying to pass something down to us all along and we simply failed to notice? This next image was captured by a father while his children were standing by a fence, but when he looked back at it later, it took a disturbing turn. The photo was shared on Reddit by the original poster, who wanted to understand what the strange face in the background might be. In the picture, 3 kids are standing on a bench leaning over a fence to look into a neighbor's yard. At first, everything appears normal, but once you zoom in, something unsettling becomes visible. Between the heads of 2 of the children, there's a faint ghost-like humanoid face staring directly at the camera. The face looks pale and unsettling, and its eyes seem to glow, likely reflecting the camera's flash. Online, people quickly began speculating. Some believe it could be a real spirit, possibly someone who passed away, especially since the house is said to be close to a cemetery. Others think it's just an effect of lighting a staged image, or even a person unintentionally caught in the frame. But here's the detail that stands out: even if it were a real person, human eyes don't reflect light that way. Humans don't have the tapetum lucidum, the structure responsible for that glowing effect. So whatever appears in that image doesn't seem entirely human. Back in 2015, a mother and her daughter took what seemed like a harmless photo to post on Facebook, but something about it didn't feel right. A Reddit user named Improper Forum later shared several images in the Paranormal Encounters subreddit, hoping someone could explain what they were seeing. One of the pictures showed his aunt and cousin taken that same year at their home. According to him, only the 2 of them were supposed to be in the frame, but there appeared to be someone else standing directly behind them. What makes it even more unsettling is where the photo was taken on Whidby Island, a location that local history suggests was used as a burial site by native tribes for generations. Viewers quickly pointed out that the figure doesn't resemble an ordinary person. Many think it looks like a ghostly presence, possibly connected to the land itself. And finding something like that years later adds a different kind of fear, the kind that doesn't fade easily and can stay with you long after. A person received a photo from a friend showing her simply relaxing on the couch, but something in the image didn't seem right. The picture was later shared on the Ghost subreddit by a user who said it came from that friend who had been spending time in her old house, a place described as very aged and possibly haunted. She took the photo casually without thinking much of it until something in the background caught attention. In the image, her dog can be seen looking directly at what appears to be a shadowy presence. The shape has a humanoid outline, especially in the lower half, while the upper portion seems to fade into the darkness. Its position gives the impression that it's facing or confronting the dog. According to the person who posted it, they trust their friend and believe she has no experience editing photos. But from another perspective, while the image looks unsettling, it also shows characteristics of long exposure. Photography, the bluish tint, visible grain and color noise all suggest a high ISO setting in a low-light environment. A possible explanation is that someone briefly held the dog, a faint hand can be seen near its head, and then moved away, while the photo was still being taken, leaving behind a blurred, ghost-like form. The unusual shadows and streaks of light are consistent with motion blur and exposure effects. Still, without access to the original file and its metadata, it's impossible to be certain. And that uncertainty is what makes the image so unsettling. There are countless clips online that claim to capture strange objects moving across the sky, but only a handful are convincing enough to make you stop and take a second look.
La verdad es que no se puede apreciar. Voy a tratar de... Ya se fue, ya lo perdí.
And this one definitely fits that category. In the footage, an unusual object is seen hovering high above, and at first glance it appears odd, almost like a large, flower-shaped piñata drifting in the air. It didn't take long for people to start speculating that it could be something extraterrestrial, raising concerns about a possible alien presence. While theories like that are always interesting, a more reasonable explanation is that the object might be a drone or a uniquely shaped kite. Modern drones, after all, are built in a wide range of designs. But then there's the question of scale. Is it large and far away, or small and much closer than it seems? That uncertainty makes it difficult to determine exactly what it is. Whatever the answer may be, one thing stands out. It's unusual, slightly unsettling, and leaves more questions than clear explanations. And it might make you wonder, if something like this can be seen in the open sky, what else could exist just beyond what we understand? If you're considering visiting the retired Queen Mary for an exciting experience, this next image might make you think twice. The Queen Mary, once a famous ocean liner, was officially taken out of service after its final voyage in 1967. But it wasn't left empty. Instead, it became a popular attraction in Long Beach, and more notably a location surrounded by paranormal stories. This photo may seem to support those rumors in a deeply unsettling way. Around 2 years ago, a Reddit user named Refrigerator Stock 847 shared a disturbing post on the paranormal subreddit. It included a picture his friend had taken aboard the Queen Mary in March of 2010. But it wasn't the pool that caught attention, it was what appeared in the doorway behind it. In the image, there's an empty indoor pool. But in the background, standing in a doorway, is a pale figure. A woman dressed in white with long hair falling over her shoulders. When zoomed in, her face is obscured by darkness, almost as if it's deliberately hidden. According to the friend, they were alone on the ship at the time. So, who or what was that figure? And this isn't the only account. Another Reddit user described their own experience after staying overnight on the Queen Mary, mentioning strange occurrences, items going missing, and waking up with a heavy feeling as if something had been watching throughout the night. If you thought a friend ruining your photo was frustrating, wait until you see what happened in this next image. It was shared by a Reddit user named Outrageous Lab 2224 and quickly caught the attention of paranormal communities everywhere. In the picture, 3 people appear to be posing for a playful shot, but according to the person who posted it, it was only supposed to be 2 friends. Those 2 girls are expected, but the third face isn't. It shouldn't be there at all. The photo dates back to 2003, which makes it harder to dismiss as simple editing. At that time, creating a manipulation that perfectly matched the texture, lighting, and grain of the original image would have been extremely difficult. So, if it isn't altered, then what or who is that unsettling third figure? If you have any thoughts on what that face could be, share them below. Because this doesn't look like an ordinary photobomb, it feels more like something unexplained entering the frame. A carpenter hiking alone through a Pacific Northwest forest had a rear-facing GoPro attached to his pack. He walked for more than an hour without any sign that something unusual had occurred. Later, while reviewing the footage at home, he noticed it. A broad-shouldered figure partly concealed behind a tree trunk, leaning out just enough to watch him pass. It stayed in place. It didn't follow. It simply observed with a stillness that made it seem like this wasn't unfamiliar behavior. He uploaded the video online. He hasn't returned to that trail since. A figure that leans out to watch but never moves closer suggests a very specific kind of intent. It wasn't surprised, and it wasn't avoiding detection. Do you think it was just curious? Or did it already understand exactly what he was? In 2023, the YouTube channel Into the Wild released footage taken from a wildlife corridor webcam inside a Canadian national park. A machinery operator was working on clearing trails while the camera captured routine time-lapse images throughout the day. The first 2 frames showed only trees and snow. In the third frame, a figure appeared at the edge of the clearing, standing upright, noticeably broad at the shoulders, positioned between 2 trunks, as if it had stepped forward just enough to watch the man working. In the very next frame, it was gone. It had pulled back at the exact moment it risked being seen more clearly. Viewers who compared its size to the surrounding trees estimated a height of well over 7 feet. But what disturbed most people wasn't the size. It was the timing. The figure only appeared when the operator was alone, focused on his task with his back turned. It disappeared the moment exposure became possible. That doesn't match the behavior of an animal simply wandering into view. It suggests observation, deliberate, controlled, and patient, something that tracks a person's attention and moves only when it isn't being watched, points to a level of awareness most wouldn't expect in that setting. Do you think it understood what the camera was, or was it only focused on the man? This profile centers on Peter Byrne, a man whose search for Bigfoot spans more than 60 years. Born in Ireland, Byrne's journey took him far beyond his homeland, driven by a need to explore questions most people never consider. In the 1950s, a connection with a pioneering researcher from Texas set him on that path, leading him from the forests of North America to the Himalayas and establishing him as one of the most persistent figures in the field.
1956, with correspondence with a Texan whose name was Tom Slick, projecting a full-time research in the Himalaya. I am Irish. I grew up in Ireland.
That Texan was Tom Slick, a determined and relentless explorer focused on finding the Yeti. Together, Byrne and Slick spent 3 years moving through the rugged Himalayan landscape, following leads and searching across remote ridges and valleys.
Was trekking in the Himalaya, a small expedition to look for, with this Texan called Tom Slick, this oil man, who became a very good friend, to a full-time search for the Yeti in the Himalaya, 3 years.
When that chapter came to an end, Slick directed Byrne west across the ocean to the United States, where a different mystery awaited. Byrne had never been to America before. His impression of the country was shaped by cities and highways nothing like the wilderness he would soon enter. But the pull of unexplored terrain was something he already understood, and he committed to it.
So to make a long story short, I signed up with him. I spent 3 years in the Himalaya looking for the Yeti. He invited me to come to the States. He said, you spent enough time up there, come to the States and look for Bigfoot. To me, America was skyscrapers and freeways. But I came over here and got into the search for Bigfoot.
January 1960 marked his shift from tracking the Yeti to investigating Bigfoot, and he stayed with it from that point on. Earlier in his life, Byrne had worked as a big game hunter, mainly in northern India, and the jungles of southern Nepal, a region stretching hundreds of miles dense with wildlife such as elephants and rhinos. That experience sharpened his instincts. Tracking movement, reading signs, understanding patterns, all of it carried directly into his approach to Bigfoot research.
When I was big game hunting, partly in North India, but mostly in southern Nepal, the jungles of southern Nepal, 50 miles north to south, there were elephant everywhere, lots of elephant. We did not shoot elephant. So that's when I first got into Bigfoot. And that was 1956. 57, 58, 59 was the Yeti, and then Bigfoot, January 1960, starting here.
After returning from the Himalayas, Byrne set up a research base in northern Oregon. It was simple, a trailer next to a local restaurant, but it drew attention. People came forward with sightings, often unsure but curious, and Byrne carefully documented accounts that seemed consistent.
In that part of Asia, the elephant is one of the Hindu gods, shot an elephant. The other animal which was protected was the rhino, which is kind of the preserves of the royal family of Nepal. So those two animals we didn't shoot. My clients would contact me and tell me what they wanted, usually tiger, and I would set up the arrangement before they came.
When the operation later moved to Hood River, the same method continued, gradually building a record of first-hand reports from individuals with no clear reason to fabricate what they described. Over all those years, Byrne personally found only 6 sets of footprints. He never encountered the creature itself. But through hundreds of interviews, he built a collection of accounts that he considered more compelling than physical evidence alone. The stories shared by witnesses he believed to be credible became the basis of his belief.
That were credible out of that, and those are in my book. I recorded them. So that was the purpose of the information center as a big game hunter. Were useful, and one was sign reading on the ground, so that when Bigfooting, we'd see something, I could look at it. I learned tracking and sign reading.
One report stood out. Witnesses described a figure over 7 feet tall, dark brown, walking upright with a stride unlike anything familiar. It came within roughly 200 yards, then stopped and turned toward them. For a moment it remained still, arms slightly out, watching before turning again and walking back into the trees without showing signs of fear. Byrne's interpretation was measured nearby. Machinery noise may have startled it, prompting movement before it could identify the source, a reaction similar to large animals responding to unknown sounds. Throughout his work, Byrne operated between skepticism and belief. He welcomed doubt and understood that the subject wasn't widely accepted. Only a small number of researchers took it seriously. But from his perspective, the mystery had never been disproven, only left unanswered.
So the thing walked up to about 200 yards away, it stopped, looked at them, turned and walked away. 7 feet tall at least, 400 to 450 pounds, enormous, swinging its arms, walking upright, and when it stopped like this with its hands out. So the sighting is extremely unusual in that the time of the day, the people. So my theory there is that noise of the machinery got it up, which happens with wild animals very often. They can't pinpoint sound.
After decades of tracking signs and listening to witnesses, one question remained: how close could it be? And what would happen if someone came face to face with it? A hunter who spent years reading signs in some of the most remote environments on Earth and still never found what he was searching for, suggests something about the nature of what he was pursuing, if it exists at all. Byrne never claimed certainty. He simply kept going. What do you think drove him to continue for so many years? Evidence or something harder to define?
That's it for tonight. Which moment creep? Drop it in the comments. Have your own story. Share it with us and stay tuned. The next one is even darker.